Assalamu alaikum dear students. I hope you will be doing good. Today we are going to study biology. It is the lecture from the month of April. It is the last lecture that we had to cover in the same month. So the chapter which we are going to study today is depending on each other. It is chapter number 7.01, page number 162 to 163 in your textbook. So the topics which we are going to cover in today's lecture are producers and consumers, food chains, food pyramids, decomposers, or nature's recyclers. So what are producers? Producers are the organisms that make their own food. They are also known as autotrophs. They get energy from chemicals or the sun, and with the help of water, they convert that energy into the usable form of energy in the form of sugars or food. The most common example of a producer are plants. Okay, and what are consumers? Consumers in a food chain are living creatures that eat organisms from a different population. First, it is necessary to understand these two classifications, heterotrophs and autotrophs. Okay, consumers are the producers respectively, and heterotrophs are the organisms that obtain energy from other living things. Let's say the plants are producers and we the humans are consumers, right? And the plants are autotrophs because they are able to make their own food, while we are the heterotrophs because we obtain energy from other living things that are plants, right? Okay, then all living things needs energy, you know that, so they get their energy from food, and plants are also called as producers, as I have told you earlier, because they make their own food and they use sunlight to make their food by photosynthesis. So without plants, humans and all other animals would starve to their death. Okay, because without plants, how will they obtain their food, right? How we obtain our food? Okay, and it's because we cannot make our own food, right? Or the consumers are not able to make their own food. Okay, then the only way animals can obtain their energy by eating or consuming plants or other animals. So animals are called as consumers, right? Here you can see this diagram. It's basically the process of photosynthesis. In this diagram, you can see that in leaf, carbon dioxide and water comes from the atmosphere, right? And with the help of chlorophyll present inside the leaf, and with the help of sunlight, the plant is going to make its own food, and it releases the oxygen, right? So, food chains. First of all, you have to know what is food chain and what is food web, right? Okay, a food chain is a linear network of links in a food web, starting from producers, organisms, and ending at apex predator species. What does it mean? A food chain shows how the organisms are related with each other by the food they eat. Okay, each level of a food chain represents a different trophic level, right? And what is a food web? A food web is the natural interconnection of food chains and a graphical representation of what eats, what in an ecological community eats, right? Another name of food web is consumer resource system. It's just for general knowledge, right? So the food chain is basically a network of links in a food web, and food web is the natural interconnection of different food chains. Okay. So I'm going to give you some examples of food chains. Okay, let's take an example. Seaweed is a producer. It produces food by photosynthesis, right? Then periwinkles are called first consumer because they eat seaweeds, and herringulls are called the second consumers because they eat periwinkles, right? Okay, what are seaweeds. Seaweeds or the macroalgae refers to the several species of macroscopic multicellular marine algae. Okay, basically algae are a diverse group of aquatic organisms that have the ability to conduct photosynthesis like plants. Certain algae are familiar to most people, for instance, seaweeds such as kelp or phytoplankton, right? Some people consume seaweeds also. Okay. It is an example of food chain, and food chain shows how one living thing is the food for another, right? Energy passes along a food chain from producers to consumers as one member of the chain eats the next. Here you can see this in picture, okay? Energy passes along a food chain from producers to the consumers as one member of the chain eats the next, okay? Seaweed is a producer. It is eaten up by the periwinkles, okay, which is the first consumer, and which is then eaten up by herring gulls, okay, which is second consumer, right? All right, then food pyramids. What is food pyramid? The food pyramid shows how much of what you eat overall should come from each shelf to achieve a healthy balanced diet. The shape of the food pyramid shows the types of foods and drinks people need to eat most for healthy eating, right? Here you can see a pyramid also. It is called a pyramid of numbers, right? It shows how consumers can get larger in size but smaller in number as you go along the food chain, okay? For example, you can see oak tree leaves. They are the smallest in the size, so they are growing in larger quantities. Then um, on these leaves, caterpillars or moths are feeding, right? So they are lesser in numbers. On caterpillars, some robins are feeding, so they are even lesser than caterpillars or moths. And then sparrowhawks, they are feeding on robins, right? So they are even more lesser in numbers, right? Uh, so when a moth caterpillar eats a leaf, it uses some of the energy from the leaf for itself. There's less energy to pass on to robin, and there are fewer robins than caterpillars. The same thing happens when robin eats caterpillars, so there are fewer hawks than robins. Okay. The food pyramid is designed to make healthy eating easier. Okay, eat foods from each shelf of the food pyramid in the correct amount each day. All right, food webs. A plant or animal usually belong to several food chains. For example, seaweeds are eaten up by limpets and winkles as well as by sea worms. In this way, food chains are connected together to make food webs. Okay, I have told you earlier in this lecture that food webs are made by interconnection of these food chains, right? Okay, this diagram shows a food web in the sea. Okay, in this diagram you can see seaweed, periwinkles, octopus, seal, seagull, starfish, crab, limpet, right? In this diagram you can observe that seaweed is consumed by limpet and periwinkles, which are then consumed by octopus, crab, and starfish, and these are consumed by seal and seagulls, right? Okay, decomposers, nature's recyclers. Okay, decomposers are known as nature's recyclers. What are decomposers? Decomposers are bacteria and fungi which feed on dead animals and plants by making them decomposers or not or rot. Okay, they produce digestive juices which break down and dissolve dead tissues into a liquid which then absorb. Okay, decomposers are vitally important because they remove dead animals and plants by decomposing them, releasing nitrates and other minerals from their bodies into the soil. Minerals are essential for the health of plants, right? Health and growth of the plants, and without them, soil would soon become infertile and all plants' life would die. So, by the help of decomposition processes, land become fertile. All right, and then without plants, all food chains would collapse. Sudden fall will appear. So, an animal life would also die. Okay. So, by the help of decomposition processes, a land become fertile, and we can do irrigation. We will have more plants, and we will have better food chains, right? Then, what will happen? Plants will be consumed by certain animals, and like goats, cows, and we consume them, right? Decomposers maintain life on Earth by recycling minerals taken from the soil by plants. Here in this diagram, you can see the fungi, which is decomposing a dead tree and returning its mineral content to the soil. Okay, you people know that plants and the tree, wood, trunks, these parts contain minerals. So these minerals, after the death of the plant, are moving back to the soil with the help of decomposing bacteria or fungi, right? So I believe that you people must have got understood this lecture. So now it's time to write some answers of the questions. Okay. Question number 1 is, why are plants called producers? Why are animals called consumers? It's question number 2. Question number 3 is, what is food chain and food web? Question number 4, draw a food web. Question number 5, put this food chain into correct order: slug, fox, primrose, leaf, and frog. What are decomposers? Question number 7, explain how decomposers keep soil fertile. Question number 8, make 6 fill in the blanks in your copy from this chapter. Thanks for your attention and patience. I wish you all the best. Me, Ms. Suvia Yusuf, signing off. Thank you. Allah Hafiz.